Hello everybody, my name is Bryanna, and in persuasive speech, I want to talk about the double-edged sword our standardized tests truly measure learning. Imagine a system where a single score from a single day dictates a student's future, a teacher's effectiveness, and a school's reputation. These are the reality of standardized testing. Standardized tests have become a cornerstone of our education for a long time now and have not gone truly beyond their matters and won't for a while. While many have talked about standardized tests not being very compatible with learning or their objectivity and comparability, standardized tests are ultimately ineffective and often determined measure of true learning. That means they do not truly measure what you have learned that whole year. And in 10th, you remember the 10th and 11th grade, those big standardized tests. Well, that, they say, dictates the student's future. Even though if you had a bad morning when you went to go take that test, you might have not truly known what you have learned and it doesn't show. But it affects you, it affects the teacher and the school's reputation. And they very push for you to do well, but you might have not had a great morning and might have not done well on that test and flunked it. So it's usually not a true learning of what you've learned throughout the whole semester. It is also a very limited scope of learning. These tests primarily assess recall of specific facts, skills, and neglect critical thinking and problem solving. And also collaboration. You do not get the collaboration skills with others. You also can tell that you can lack some critical thinking skills if you don't know what you've learned. You just memorize whatever is being taught to you so you know it on that test. You also ignores diverse intelligence. Not everybody learns the same way. You might have learned it a different way and might not do well on tests in general. You have very bad test anxiety. It just ignores all of that and makes it where it dictates what you make on it. And the research from the USASB blog 2025 highlights how standardized tests often overemphasize role memorization and regulation of facts, hindering the development of crucial skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity necessary for real-world scenarios. They also note that these tests measure a narrow range of abilities, disadvantaged students who excel in areas not covered. And this also talks about how the curriculum and narrowing and teaching to the test. Pressure on educators. Educators have much pressure on them already, but when their future and their career is based on how a student at the end of the year does on a test that they are supposed to remember everything and anything from the whole year they've been taught, it is a very narrow curriculum and it fully just knocks it out. It does not, you don't get the best education usually, and you don't remember much out of it and not have fun with it. It's just the pressure on them and then the pressure on the student. The sacrifice of enrichment. Subjects like art, music, and physical education, and even in-depth science or history projects often marginalize or cut allocate more time to the subject. You don't get a broader education if you do not have enough time for the art or the music and physical education, if you have to have the pressure on the other subjects. A study from the University of Denver on the narrowing of curriculum in age of accountability is found that pressure from the standardized testing leads to teachers prioritize testing over teaching. They teach you how to take a test. They do not give you the right education system. It's just, I'm going to teach you how to take this test at the end of the year, all year long, and you're not going to remember any of it. And you don't get the best education system. It also talks about access to these resources. And personally, I grew up in a very low income community where everything was hard to get these access. It was harder to get the books that you needed in the right education system. And then you have the pressure of doing well on tests. I was also being taught to take a test, and that did not do well in my education system. Luckily, I was able to push out of it with some help from places like Upper Bound and others to get out of this. Also, the cultural test design. In many standardized tests come cultural references or language nuances that may disadvantage students from diverse cultures. It also has bad impacts on English language cultures. English language learners, ELLS, are often tested in English before they can have fully acquired that language, leading to scores to reflect language proficiency rather than the subject matter knowledge. That means they just don't really understand it. It's a bad impact on them. In ways, it is not a truly measured, standardized test of learning. You can't really measure your learning through a standardized test. You're getting a narrow curriculum. The students are memorizing their information. And I feel like we should be able to do way, way, way better with our education system and how this is based. We can take them a step by saying something, or if you have siblings, a kid in elementary school where they have to take that standardized testing, just reach out to somebody and be like, hey, I personally said that to many educators, and try to get pushed to change it, because standardized testing, it can be changed. How we use it, if we can use standardized testing and make it where we have different ways of learning and focus on how we learn and not how we memorize a test and not test to teach, we can do way better, and our education system, especially in Oklahoma, can rise to the top. I can't wait to watch the rest of y'all's persuasive speeches. Thank you.